What is your name, position/role, and your institution?
My name is Steve Wilding. I'm a through life system sustainment lead for an area within Babcock International.
Could you provide an explanation on the impact that digital manufacturing is having on your sector?
Okay, first of all, we're a company that, although it does do manufacturing in certain areas, we're more biased towards support. But we got involved in the Digitop project because in our case, often the lines between manufacturing and support is quite blurred. Um, in essence, we all need the similar information. We all need to deliver it, similar information. We've all got similar issues. It's just the fact that manufacturing is traditionally seen as something you do in a factory environment, but it's really no different to what we do supporting our customers. So I tend to refer to it less as digital manufacturing and more as more in line with sort of the digital revolution, the industry 4.0 type look at. So digitization in effect is allowing us to understand more, in some cases understand more faster. This allows for more confident, informed decision making. And that's pretty much at all levels. So whether or not it's management of a project, or whether or not it's the individuals on the coalface making day-to-day decisions, it allows for those to be made quicker, and in many cases, the decisions are more accurate. So the kind of areas that we're looking at, it falls into sort of two areas. First of all, information delivery. Obviously, we've got the same problem as most people. Printed media is often slow to update, more particularly slow to distribute. So digitization allows us to reduce the delays, so we can actually push out the information to the point of need a lot faster. Because we are controlling that push out, and as well as that, you don't end up with the pencil and the pen amends that engineers tend to make. There's more chance that you're maintaining the configuration control. Where we've already started to change those printed media into PDFs, they're still often very text heavy, so they can be quite unwieldy when you're trying to search for information. So the next stage is we're moving more towards interactive publications, which obviously have got the advantage that they're often more intuitive, they're able to present relevant information faster, and they present the information to the user rather than the user have to search for it. So you're in more of a push than a pull information system. But on top of that, we now also, by providing our engineers with digital hardware, we're able to provide more information in animated or video format. And there's a lot of evidence, as you're aware, that the comprehension and retention of information is vastly increased when you deliver it in a more pictorial view or a video view. So you're getting a lot closer to turning information into knowledge almost instantaneously. You've got a lot better chance of that happening. We're also investigating, or increasingly investigating, the use of augmented reality, and that falls into two parts. There's a lot of augmented reality devices out there, so you're actually presenting more traditional information, so items, BRs, animations, etc. But you can actually have that in animation floating in midair. Say, for instance, we're doing a lot of work with HoloLens at the moment. You can actually put the information where the user needs it, as opposed to the maintainer. In our case, we've got a lot of working at height or working in very cramped spaces. So they have to sort of leap away from the job, look at whatever they need to look at, and then come back to the job. Well, by use of these devices, you can actually take that information and put it floating in midair next to them. So that's the delivery of information side. But the other advantage to us is data gather. The area that I work in is very biased towards the military. So we do what is called DRACAS. So that's data reporting, analysis, and corrective action system, which you could argue is a very, very posh way of putting learning from experience. And whichever methodology you use, gathering data and making sure that data is accurate and as complete as possible. That's obviously helps you make those decisions. So we're starting to use those delivery devices to be capture devices. So the user, the test engineer, the maintainer, they're encouraged to give feedback on what went right with the job, what went wrong with the job, more detail about defects, etc. And then we're also using sensors, in many cases, the actual system's operating software to capture health and usage information, which again, if we can get that fed back, we can be more digitally aware, so that we understand the health and usage of the equipment itself. So because of that, we can be more proactive. We can move from a reactive stance, which we're extremely good at, but reactive stance is effectively, as far as our customers are concerned, they don't want it to break. So how fast we fix it, they're obviously often pleased with us fixing it quickly, but their preference is that it didn't break in the first place. So with all of that data, we should be able to use PF curves and the like, possibly AI, and we start getting into the realms of digital twin. So we can effectively move into that proactive stance and intervene before it becomes a problem for our customer. And in our case, we're dealing with a lot of safety or operational critical systems.
Could you highlight some of the challenges that digital technologies pose to those working in manufacturing?
Right, the first challenge is the fact that it's very easy to be seduced by digital technology. So engineers tend to be a little bit like magpies. Digital technology is the new buzzword. It's shiny. So you've got to really be disciplined. You've got to understand if it adds value, or are you just introducing it because everybody else is, or it sounds good. So you've really got to look at your cost benefit analysis as to, does it truly add value? The other challenge that digital technology poses is there's a lot of solutions out there. So you have to take a very jointed approach to your choice of hardware, software, and making sure the fact that when you integrate all of these things, you've actually got something that works together in almost harmoniously. If you could end up quite easily go down the route where we've got this software that's very good for this software is very good for that, this hardware is very good for that, but they don't work effectively together. So you've got to really look at your overarching solution, go down a jointed route, and one resist temptation of knee jerking, and secondly, you've got to roadmap everything. You've got to understand where you're going and try and stick to that, or at least control any deviations from that roadmap.
Could you explain the ways in which digital and digital manufacturing research can help companies?
There were a number of areas in the digital project that were of interest. I've worked with Cranfield University for several years, so the augmented reality, the information capture, the augmented reality production and all that side of things, we'd started that route, and it was useful to see other perspectives to make sure, as I say, it's easy to go down a route that isn't, you can be seduced down a route. So it was good to work with academia to understand whether or not we were actually going down a good route. So that side of it was very useful. There were lots of areas on Digitop that concentrated on the human. And I've got a really big interest in the fact that we can digitize everything, but digitization is costly. And as well as that, you have to spend a lot of time understanding how to digitize something. The human, at the end of the day, is still probably one of our most versatile sensor sets that we've got. So actually taking human characteristics, human senses, and being able to feed that back as if it were a part of the overarching machine was extremely useful. And we're also introducing a lot of digital technology in front of a human. So understanding or monitoring the human themselves was also very interesting. So what kind of stresses are we putting that individual under? Can we actually understand what is task-driven pressure, what is circumstance-driven pressure, and in some cases, what pressure are we adding to them by overloading them with information? So that the Digitop, that the whole of the Digitop team was of interest. There was no single area that was individually the only area I was interested in. So it gave a really good insight into what was coming through, what the art of the possible was, how far into the future we might have to wait before that possibility becomes a reality. And again, it helps us look at the direction we may have traveled. There's a few areas where Digitop has changed that roadmap. We can now see an opportunity to introduce some of the Digitop ideas, and they would add value to what we intend to do in the future.